Hey guys, today we are going to be talking about lesson 1.5 and it's adding and subtracting rational numbers. Our essential question today is how are reading and subtracting integers related to adding and subtracting rational numbers? So example 1, we're going to start by adding and subtracting rational numbers with different signs. Lava flows from an active volcano's magma reservoir located below sea level through the magma conduit. How far is the summit of the volcano from sea level? So the generalization here is you can use the rules from adding integers to add all the rational numbers. So we want to make sure we're making an addition sentence. Now, when you really think about this, it makes a lot more sense to have a subtraction sentence. We'd say 5 1/4 is our whole, and if we take away the part that we don't need, it'll give us the rest. But because we want to do it in addition, we're going to go ahead and do it the way they have it, all right? So here's the magma conduit, this whole thing. This is sea level right here. We're going to call our sea level 0 because that would be the 0. Everything above it is positive. Everything below it is negative. So this 2 3/4 is going to be a negative 2 3/4. And above this is going to be positive, but we don't know what it is yet. And that's what we're going to find out. So they show us over here on the number line where the summit level is here, the part we're trying to figure out. This is the whole thing, and then this is the negative part that we know. So you can use the rules of adding integers to add any other rational numbers. So this is that negative 2 3/4 that's below sea level. This is the whole thing. If we add them together, we'll get an expression that represents the distance. So we find when we have our number, we're adding opposites. So if the signs are different, we can take the absolute value and then subtract them. So I'm going to do the actual math because they don't do it for you on the side over here. If you have space, go ahead. If not, you can write it somewhere else. So I'm going to line up my fractions. We have 5 1/4, and we're going to subtract 2 3/4. Well, first off, I got it lined up. So I know I can subtract my whole numbers, but the whole numbers we shouldn't subtract first. We should always subtract our fractions first because we may need to borrow from the whole numbers. And in this case, we actually do. We have 3/4, and they're already common denominators, so we don't have to figure that out. Well, we have 3/4, and I need to take 3/4 from 1/4. Well, I don't have enough fourths to take 3 out of 1. So I'm going to borrow from here a whole, and now I'm going to have 4 and 5 because we take our 4 wholes and add it to the one we already had, 4s, minus 2 3/4. Well, now we can just subtract our numerators. 5 minus 3 gives us 2. Our denominator stays the same as 4, and 4 minus 2 gives us 2. So we have 2 2/4. So, well, that's not the answer they have here. They have 2 1/4. Why? Because we have to simplify. 2/4 can be divided both by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 4 divided by 2 is 2. And that's how we get our 1/4. So make sure you're always putting your fractions in simplest forms. So negative 2 3/4 plus 5 1/4 gives us 2 1/2. And so the summit of the volcano is 2 1/2 miles above sea level. So, using what you know now, you're going to try this yourself. A dolphin is at the surface of a water and then descends to a depth of 4.5 feet. Then the dolphin swims down another 2 3/4 feet. What is the location of the dolphin relative to the surface of the water? So, the dolphin's location relative to the surface of the water is right here. So we started at 0 at sea level, and it went down, which, as they've shown you, is represented by a negative. So they went down all the way to 4 1/2. So this is negative 4 1/2. So now we need to figure out how much more down. Well, how much more down did they go? So we subtracted 2 3/4 from what they already went down. Or you can think of it as adding the opposite. So then you can say adding negative 2 3/4. So now we have negative 2 3/4 plus negative 4 1/2. And go ahead and try to put that into your, try to solve that. Pause your video, answer the question that's about to pop up. Great. So you should have already answered the question that popped up on the video. So let's do it together to make sure you got it. So we're going to add them together. So we're going to line up, take our absolute values, line up our fractions. We have 4 1/2 plus 2 3/4. And I'm just going to ignore the negatives right now because they're both negative. So I know my answer will be a negative. Well, we don't have our common denominators. So make sure you always find the common, denominator. Always, always, always. So, well, what would be a number that you can multiply 2 by in order to get 4? You can multiply it by 2. So you got to multiply both of them by 2. So your new problem is going to be 4 2/4 plus 2 3/4, which would give you 2 plus 3. You add your numerators to get 5. 4 stays the same, and 4 plus 2 is 6. Well, is this in simplest form? No. So we can simplify it by taking out one of the wholes here. If you add a number, your numerator is bigger than your denominator, then you can take out a whole. So we're going to take out one whole, which now brings us to 7 1/4. Don't forget, though, these were both negative, so your number should be negative. So over here, that means it's negative 7 sorry, guys, I can't move it, and 1/4. Over here, this is where it ended at, you can see 7 1/4, and this here should have been negative 2 3/4. So the location of the dolphin relative to the surface of the water is negative 7 1/4 feet. Don't worry about the convince me, we don't have to do it. So let's move on to the next page. Use the properties of operations to add and subtract. So the force of gravity added to the force of thrust is the combined force at work on a model rocket. What is the combined force in newtons on the rocket? So we have the negative 0.49 and you have 1 1/2. The 1 1/2 is the thrust, the newtons. The negative 1 4/9 is newtons in gravity. So this is your thrust, this is your gravity. So we need to figure out what the total newtons is. You can use the commutative property and add the inverse as a strategy to add. So we know that negative 0.49 plus 1/4, well, 1 1/2, sorry guys. You can switch them as long as you keep your negatives together. So we have now 1 1/2 plus negative 4.9. Well, remember, you can use that additive inverse, add the opposite, or you can subtract the opposite. So if we are adding a negative, you can subtract a positive. And let's write that over here. Adding a negative is the same, equals subtracting a positive. So 1 1/2 minus 0.49. Well, we're going to change 1 1/2 into a decimal, and everyone should know that 1/2 equals 0.5. If you didn't know that, all you have to do is take 1 divided by 2. Well, 1 can't go into 2, so we add our 0, put our decimals in, add a 0 over here. Can 2 go into 10? Yes, it can, 5 times. 5 times 2 is 10, and we end up with 0. So that's how we got that. So now we're going to say 1.5 minus 4.9. So when you want to figure that out, you say 1.5 over 0.9 Line up your decimals. That's how you subtract decimals. You could add a 0 in if you want. 0 minus 9, can't do that, so you borrow from your 5. Make it 10. 10 minus 9 is 1. 4 minus 4 is 0. 1 minus 0 is 1. Bring down your decimal, and this is where 1.1 gets. So the combined force of the rocket is 1.1 newtons. So go ahead and try, let's say, this one here, A. Don't worry about this one. Don't worry about this one. A question is about to come up asking you to put your answer in, and then I'll go over it after you've answered it. All right, so now we have negative 2.5 plus negative 5 and 6/10. I'm going to turn it into a decimal because I feel like that's a little bit easier. So we're going to say 2.5 negative plus, well, 6/10 as a decimal is 0.6. So we're going to say negative 5.6. And if you wanted to see, again, you put 6 on the inside. Your numerator goes on the inside. The denominator goes on the out. 10 can't go into 6, so we add our 0. 10 can go into 66 times. 6 times 10 is 60, and now we have our 0. So that's where I got 0.6 from. So now we're going to say 5 plus 6 is 1. Bring your extra 10 over here. Well, it's 11, but you bring your 10 over here. 5 plus 2 is 7 plus 1 is 8. So now we have negative 8.1 is your answer. All right. Finally, we're going to just do some subtracting of decimals by themselves. We've done mixed. Now we're just going to do decimals. We're going to focus on the problem. Ruby looks over the edge of her boat and sees fish 0.4 meters below the surface. Below usually means that we're talking about a negative. If Ruby holds a 1 meter long net at 0.5 meters above sea level, above usually means positive, can she reach the fish? So we're going to say, to find the distance between the 2 points on the number line, find the absolute value of the difference. So we're going to say 0.5 minus negative 0.4. Well, remember, you're going to add it and then change it to its opposite. So now we're saying 0.5 plus 0.4 gives us 0.9. And 0.9 as absolute value is 0.9. So yes, the fish are 0.9 meters below where Ruby holds the net. So Ruby can reach the fish with a meter long net. So because her net is a meter long and it's only 0.9 away, not a whole, she'll be able to reach them. And we're not going to do this one. So that's all for you on this video. Make sure that you turn in your notes as a picture, as well as answered all the questions on here, and hit submit at the end of the video, guys. Please don't miss out on points because you didn't hit submit. All right, I'll see you guys later.